Hi guys, Lanie here. Can you not sound like that? Okay. Hi guys, Lanie here, and in today's video we're going to talk about moving to Houston. So if you're thinking about moving to Houston, or you're just kind of interested in seeing what it's like in general, then keep on watching. And while you're at it, please go ahead and hit that subscribe button, thumbs up, leave your comments and questions below, and I'll be sure to get back to you. If you like this video or just want to support me, please go and check out some of my other videos, like and comment on those as well. Your support is greatly appreciated. So let's get down to it. So I guess I should preface this video with I am relatively new to Houston. I've only lived here for about 7 months. I am originally from North Carolina, if you care. So I moved from, not directly from, but essentially I moved from Charlotte, North Carolina to Houston, Texas. So I wasn't out in, like, you know, some of the more rural parts of North Carolina, which I guess could compare to some of the more rural parts of Texas, but that's totally unrelated. Just trying to give you some context. I moved here for work, and they did help fund a lot of my relocation, so that was a blessing. I'm of course Black, single, and a you know, relatively young, I guess 20 something years old. So just kind of giving you an idea of what I think of when I move to a place, what are things that I like to consider, and how I've kind of interpreted the things I've seen around Houston. And you can take it as a grain of salt, or if you are a Houstonian or Texan, please don't be in the comments, you know, talking. I feel like most people would agree. I'm not saying anything egregious. I'm just, you know, kind of talking about the things that I've noticed, what I think is important, and what are some things that you should consider if you want to move here. So first and foremost, I guess I'll break it up into 4, I guess, kind of topics, and then with each, of course, I'll kind of discuss different things. So the first one is living. So with living, I'm talking about, you know, where to live, kind of the landscape of Houston, what you want to consider, where do you want to live, how much does it cost, things like that. So I think the first thing that you'll notice, if you're moving to Houston, or if you're visiting, if you've been here, you know, whatever the case may be, it is humongous. I think they said it's like the sound has like a 40-mile radius, which is huge. I think in Charlotte it's around like 15 miles or something like that. Definitely not, you know, even half as big as Houston. So you could travel pretty much, you know, hours and still be in Houston, especially with the second thing that we have here, which is traffic. But we'll continue on to the living. So being that Houston is so big, you definitely have a lot of different options. So you can stay inside of the 610 loop, which is kind of like midtown, downtown, all that stuff is inside the loop. A little bit more pricey, but definitely a hot spot for young professionals, young people in general, young couples, young single people. I think you'll find a good mix, and even some older you know, families, and, you know, some ethnic neighborhoods. If you want to, you know, live with people who look like you, there are definitely a couple of options that you could consider. You could also live outside of the loop, which is a little less expensive, a little, you know, less, I guess, populated and less dense, have a little bit more land. You probably have the higher likelihood of, you know, in that area finding a house if that's what you're looking for. Definitely housing here, I think, is, you know, pretty expensive. I think relatively, you know, they say that Houston has a pretty good cost of living, but for me, I thought that I lived in a townhome that I rent. I thought it was a little overpriced. It's very nice, very beautiful neighborhood, but definitely, I think, a little bit more than I would have wanted to pay. But I just kind of suck it up, because I think that's something that is a priority for me, is living in a space that I really, you know, enjoy and I find comforting and calming. I guess with that being said, I feel like in general Houston has a lot of nice options as far as apartments. I think you will pay you know, there's a price tag that kind of comes along with that, but definitely there are less expensive options out there that are probably just as nice. But for the area I wanted to live, of course, I've settled on the apartment that I live in. If you don't want to live in the city, for example, or if you have a family, there are a lot of suburbs around Houston. Some of the most popular, of course, like Sugarland, Pearland, Katy, are kind of west and southwest of Houston. And also to the north and northwest, there's north and northwest. There's like Cypress, what else? The Woodlands, Spring. Those are a couple different options that you have up there. Those are the ones that I hear most often, as far as even when I was moving, the ones that people suggested to me as far as places to live. So before I moved into the actual city of Houston, I did live in Missouri City. I really did like that area. The commute into Houston proper wasn't bad. Usually took me about, well, if you're not traveling during, you know, rush hour, it's not bad. With the tollways, you likely need a toll pass if you want to live in the suburbs, just so you can get to places a little bit faster. But with the tollways coming into the city, maybe took about, I don't know, 30 minutes from where I lived in Missouri City. And then now, where I live now, I live, you know, outside of the loop, west of Houston. I'm about maybe 3 exits and I'll be in Katy. That takes me about maybe, I don't know, 20 minutes to kind of get into the city, like Midtown or Galleria area. And even downtown, it doesn't take very long either. So one thing you will need, being that Houston is so big and public transportation is here but it's not as popular, you will want a car. Houston is not a walkable city by any means. Maybe if you live downtown, there are certain places that you could walk to, but in large part you'll probably need a car as your most effective mode of transportation. But yeah, if you're coming from a city like LA or New York, or and you're considering Houston, you'll probably think that cost of living is, you know, low. Granted, you may be making less money when you move here, but if you're coming from maybe Atlanta or some of the other cities in the South, even Miami, you'll probably find that maybe it's comparable to what you would pay in those types of cities. And then, like I mentioned earlier, the second thing that you need to know when you're moving to Houston is that you will sit in traffic. Pretty much, unless you work and live on the same street, which even then you might have some issues, you will have to sit in traffic. The traffic here is, it just is. And you know, at this point the highways are, you know, 4, 5, and 6 lanes, but still, just because of the amount of people that are in Houston, the amount of people that are moving to Houston daily, you're gonna be in traffic. During rush hour, it's not an hour, it's probably about, I don't know, maybe I'd say a 2 to 3 hour period of time where, if at all possible, you might just want to stay home or stay at work if possible, or stay wherever you are. If you can avoid traveling during that time to avoid being in traffic, then you might want to do that, especially if you have to travel on like 45, which is an interstate here. It's just bad. It's typically always an accident, always traffic. You might catch a break on some of the other interstates like I-10, 610. You can kind of sometimes, you know, maybe navigate those a little bit faster, but definitely 45, it's like it's just a parking lot most mornings and afternoons when everyone's commuting to and from work. So third thing that we will talk about is the weather. So if you are looking for a warm city, Houston, of course, being in the South, would be the one for you. It is, what, February now, and I think it was close to maybe 80 degrees today, if not over. It is it's always warm pretty much. I am from North Carolina, which I feel like has, like I said, I said I was from North Carolina, you guys know that, but it has distinct seasons. I think there's a spring, a winter, a summer, a fall. We have, we do have that weird kind of period that happens in spring and fall where it's like freezing in the morning but warm in the afternoon. But other than that, I feel like they're very distinct seasons. You'll get a little bit of snow, in the winter. It's, typically, hot. Spring, of course, hotter. Summer, and then it cools back down in the fall. Here, it's just kind of like hot, less hot, and more hot. Those are like 3 temperatures. I haven't had to pull out like my winter coats or my boots. Those are just things that I haven't had to use here. I'm not really wearing sweaters too often just because it's so warm all of the time. And another thing that happens a lot here is rain and flooding. I don't know if it's because where Houston is located specifically and how they kind of built the infrastructure of the city, but when it rains, it seems to rain a lot, and when it rains a lot, it floods. And there's certain pockets of the city that you'll learn that you just need to avoid when it is raining, because most likely your car will be stuck, or there will be in a more insane amount of traffic than normal, because people are stuck trying to navigate through flooding, which is not fun. But they're really good about putting out flood advisories, and you'll even see the little flood meters on different roads and different parts of the interstate and highways. So just something, if you're not a fan of, and it doesn't rain a whole lot, but when it does rain, it seems to stick around for a while. So the 4th thing that I would consider, I guess before moving to Houston, of course, maybe the first thing that you want to consider is, will you have a job? I think the job market here is growing. There's of course a lot of oil and gas here. So if you're into that, as far as maybe some type of chemical engineer or accounting, even, that seems to be a pretty hot market here. Financial, healthcare, of course, is also really big here. So just things to consider if you are kind of have a career and you are considering moving to Houston. Are there companies here where you feel like you can maybe have some upward mobility in whatever you're trying to do? So I definitely feel like you can find that here. I work in the transportation industry. I work for a delivery company. I won't say which one, of course, for privacy reasons, but a popular company. And I think there's several other companies that either have major locations or headquarters here. So I definitely think that there are some solid companies that you can build careers with. If you're not at the point in your life where you're ready for a career and you just kind of want to have, maybe a part-time job, or just something to help you get the bills paid, there are tons and tons and tons of restaurants, or even if you're into like hospitality and management, I think that's definitely something that you could find here as far as a job, or even a career in that. Or if you just want a little part-time, like I said, there are tons of restaurants, tons of hotels, tons of just little odds and end places here that I feel like I'm seeing a different now hiring sign pretty much on every corner. So I think if you are looking for a job, or if you're moving with your family, or younger or older kids, I should say, that are kind of maybe in high school and want little part-time jobs, definitely think you won't struggle to find one here, because it seems like there are people hiring. And like I said, if you are in a place in your life where you're a little bit more set in your career, like I said, oil and gas, healthcare are, it seems like, the top 2 kind of industries here, and definitely something where I feel like you could find a job rather quickly. The last thing, and I think one of the more important for me, was the social scene. I wanted to know, what it was going to be like. I'm not a huge partier or clubber or anything, but I just wanted to know that I'd have the options to go out to places that I enjoy. you know, if I want to grab a drink or do happy hour or, you know, go out to a game, I wanted to make sure that, you know, there are things here that I could do. So I definitely think that Houston has that option. It's not a 24-hour city, at least not for me. So if you're one of those people who's, you know, maybe used to like New York or LA, where pretty much any time of day you can find something to do, especially, you know, those late nights, pretty much here, especially because you can't sell alcohol after 2. Clubs, bars shut down after 2. After that, there's not too much left open. I don't know, maybe a little after hour spot, strip clubs or something if you're into that. But if you're just kind of the average person, most times, you know, unless you're taking it back to your house, your nights will end at 2 o'clock. But outside of that kind of scene, I think I guess with that, there are a lot of different clubs and bars, variety of restaurants, of course, that you can visit. Another option, there are tons of really nice parks here. There are different types of, you know, little activities like Topgolf. I've done that a couple times. I find that really fun. Or, you know, like the little indoor skydiving places. There are a few of those types of things here. There, of course, are the Texans and the Rockets and what's the baseball team? Not the Rangers. That's not here. Let me look it up. What's the baseball team, guys? Is it the Rangers? And I'm just like not remembering correctly, or is that it in Dallas? Houston baseball. Astros, yeah. There's the Astros. I don't know why I knew that. I actually been to an Astros game before. I think there's soccer that's here. I'm not gonna bother looking up the name of that team, but just is, there are a lot of different sporting events that you can attend if you're into that. If you're not, you know, a Houston fan, you can wait until your team, you know, comes in town to play in Houston and always go to those games. There's also a lot of concerts that come. I've seen Drake here, Beyonce was here. I know that, you know, Chance the Rapper, you know, Houston's, you know, because it's such a populated city, it's usually a tourist stop for most artists. So if you're into music, definitely a lot of artists, both I think mainstream and even if you're into some of the more underground or undiscovered, a lot of those shows will come through Houston. So if you're into that, that definitely is something that you can find here. I think another part of the social scene, for me at least, is shopping. I think the shopping scene is pretty good here. Of course, there's a Galleria mall, which I think is the most popular and the largest, I believe, here in Houston. And they have anything from, you know, Louis Vuitton, Christian Louboutin, or Louboutin, however you choose to pronounce it. You know, Ferragamo to, you know, Nordstrom, Macy's, all those types of stores, to your Topshop, Forever 21. You know, some of the more affordable options, your makeup brand, Sephora, MAC, all that. You can pretty much find it at the Galleria. Like I said, from the high end to the lower end and, you know, more conservative as far as price stores, you can pretty much find it there. But even if you don't like that, there are different, you know, other options as far as malls, even a couple outlet malls around the city. So you definitely have you definitely have your fair share of options to choose from if you are into shopping. So I think that's it. I don't know what else I can mention to you guys. I can maybe do a tour of my apartment if you guys would be interested in seeing that. Other than that, if you have any questions about my experience and moving to Houston, leave it down in the comments. If you're thinking about it, I guess I would say go for it. I am in the stage of my life where I want to, you know, experience different places, live in different cities. So right now, Houston is my city of choice and I am enjoying it so far. I built, you know, a small friend group that does the job for me. So yeah, like I said, if you have any questions, and I'd what am I saying? If you have questions or comments, leave them down in the description. Don't forget to subscribe and thumbs up this video. I hope you're having a great day. Love you all. Bye.